if this is going to take me away from you, then take it away from me.
Wow.
I was scammed out of which I wasn't able to claim back, and is now the time to quit. When I told my wife what was happening in the business, her immediate response is, "You think it's time to quit?" Sometimes he's testing us to see how much he can trust us for the next steps. And you see, the alternative is, if you are called by God to move in something and you decide not to, then you live a life of regret or a life of what if. Step out just in case it's God, rather than hold back just in case it's not.
You know, I'm a songwriter. It takes my mind to one of the songs I wrote. I said, and one of the lines is, "Though some parts are still unknown, may I trust your faithfulness. Uncharted paths are here, but you've made way here before. Oh mind, my peace, your peace be still. God has proved you're in his hands. My prayer is still, your will be done." And that's just it is absolutely great to be on set with you, Martyn. It's been a while coming that I wanted to do this, and it was just born out of having a genuine discussion with you. No thoughts of anything really included in that, just having a genuine discussion. But I just saw such passion and such desire for legacy, and I believe you are in a season of transition in your life. So I would want to discuss with you today on the cost of the dream, about how the journey has been, and also what next. So it's really exciting. I'm really excited about this discussion. But in your own words, could you introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm Martyn Skirrow, and I run a business called Stage Logic. Established it initially back in 1999, so I've been 26, 27 years in the audiovisual sector, primarily servicing churches and church events, but also supplemented by the corporate sector as well. So it's anything to do with audiovisual, I have an involvement in. So that ranges between events, event production, event support, and dry hire of equipment, and installations and sales. So the whole full spectrum of anything to do with audiovisual.
And you've been doing it for 27 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And during that time, I would say, many ups, many downs along the way. So not only have I gained an awful lot of experience in audiovisual solutions, but also in business sense as well.
Awesome. And we will be exploring all of that today.
Sure. Yeah.
But the first thing I would really want to understand from your perspective, because I think you have quite a different way of viewpoint to most things, because the theme of this podcast is the cost of the dream, and we tend to explore success a lot. So what does success look like when you started the business, when you started your journey, and how has that definition changed over the years?
Okay, well, to start off with, it was a God concept, that it was a desire that God planted in my heart to move out of what I was doing, which I was involved in something completely different, which was chemical sales, on an international basis. So I was not really involved in audiovisual before I took the main plunge. But I was so entrenched in that as a career that my eyes were open to the pretentiousness of that side of business, and I really felt that I didn't want that to be the rest of my life, living in that kind of environment. And so I prayed about it a lot, and really felt the urge or the call to go into business. So the first thing is to look at how you start a business, so I read up on all sorts of teachings of how to do it, and I was pretty much ready to go, apart from one very important thing, and that was, what is the business going to be? So I prayed and prayed and prayed about that, and it was a long time coming, but eventually God said, do what you're good at and do what you enjoy. And at the time I was good at doing presentations to high level companies, and really involved in that. And it was a time when data projectors were just coming into being in corporate presentations, and so I took an interest in that. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do. And I'd sat through so many presentations from people where they had fallen down on so many levels. Either they couldn't work out how to use the equipment, or they weren't confident standing up and speaking in front of people, or they didn't know how to pull a good presentation together in PowerPoint or something like that. And so my thinking was that I was going to go into training. I was going to train people how to do all those things, combining all those skill sets together. And so I wrote a program, floated it out to a few training companies, and got good responses to that. And I felt that that is the way to go. And that was what my intention was, to do training. So I quit my job. And at the time I had some minor health problems with back issues, which I was undergoing. I was with a physio, going through that, and they basically told me, another 2 or 3 weeks you'd be absolutely fine. So I quit my job, and within 2 days the minor problem became a major problem, and I was virtually crippled. Couldn't walk more than 10 meters without having to take a break for pain relief, and couldn't stand up for a couple of minutes or more. And so the idea of being able to train people had to be shelved. There was no other way that I could train people if I couldn't stand up and do the presentations myself. So but behind all of that, I'd made some contacts with suppliers of equipment as well. So it was always going to be, I can provide the training, and by the way, if you need the equipment, I know what I'm talking about. I can do that as well. And so I had to just rely upon the equipment. So selling the equipment to whoever wanted to buy it, and my target really was churches. That's what I felt called into, because I'd seen so many churches moving into this kind of technology and being completely ripped off, or not being supplied the right kind of thing that works properly. So I started to move into that, and increasingly the word got around, and I was asked to provide for this church and that church and this organization, that organization. And then people started asking me, can I install it? And I couldn't think of a good reason why not to, so I pursued that. And then people started to ask me, do I hire this equipment out? And so I did. I started very small on hiring, and it was just growth from there onwards.
And you built quite a big inventory from that.
Absolutely. I look back now, and think from what I first started out as, and then to have a warehouse full of equipment that could support most kind of events. It really blessed me, but all the way through, it was a God thing.
Yeah. Wow.
And my service has always been, as the scripture asks us to do unto the Lord. So it's been a blessing. But I also, right at the start of it, I did say to God, look, if this ever distracts me away from you, then please bring an end to it.
Wow.
And I got very close a couple of times.
Wow.
It was a good wake up call.
Yeah.
Because my plan at the beginning was that I didn't have to work as hard as I had worked when I was in employment.
Yeah.
And I misjudged,
Hmm.
understatement, because I never worked so hard in my life as for working for myself. And there comes a point where sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. It can take you away. It can occupy your time so much that your focus changes a little bit. And so God had to remind me of that. And I always vowed, I always remember saying that if this is going to take me away from you, then take it away from me.
Wow. Wow. I think I'm quite curious because I can only just imagine that, I mean, it wasn't as though you were let go of with a huge package from your other job.
Mm-hmm.
You actually resigned, and you were told by this physio that actually the back pain you were having was going to be okay within 2 to 3 weeks, right? And you now went through a period after you've resigned from your job that you probably couldn't do any work for a long period of time.
Yeah.
What did that feel like? What was that like, and how long even did that last?
Okay. It was 18 months before I could walk properly again and function
18 months.
properly. Yeah. However, in that time, let's say for the first 6 months, I was also becoming addicted to painkillers because they were very strong painkillers and they gave me relief, and it just became one of those things. But I did become very aware of that and managed to wean off those. But yeah, 18 months of before I was kind of released from that. I always knew that I would come through it because I always knew that God's hand was on me in setting up the business. And one of the evidences that I took from that was the timing of things, that I quit my job and 2 days later I was in a very, very difficult situation. And sometimes when you take a leap of faith, the enemy is going to do what he can to pull the rug from under your feet. And that to me was the signal that, yes, God, you're in this. It's a struggle. I'm going to learn a lot from it and take a lot out of it in terms of personal growth. And it's given me a lot of empathy for people who are in such difficult situations. Rather than that's just life, you know. There's always lessons to take.
But I believe during this time you probably had a very young family.
Not very young, but they were young. Yeah, they were sort of they'd have been between 5 and 10.
Exactly. So how were you? How did you cope? How did you take care of your family? How did you're navigating a new business, you're navigating health, your finances may not have been where it used to be. What did that look like?
It was incredibly difficult. There were times when I got to a point where I had an appointment to go to do a survey for somebody to get some more work, and I really struggled to find where I could get the money to put fuel in the car to get to that appointment. It was a real struggle at times, but sometimes when you know something is from God, you know that God's going to come up trumps, and that was an occasion. Yeah, well, just things miraculously happen, or some people would say it's coincidence that things happen at certain times, but I believe that God intervenes, especially in situations where your need is greatest. Yeah, it was a struggle, but it also made me very grateful when any business came in my direction. And I remember the first projector that I ever sold to a church. I literally cried.
Wow.
Because well, I think two things. One is because, yes, I've actually managed to make a sale, which is bringing income. But the other thing was a sobering thought that the money that church is paying to me has been sacrificially given by the congregation. So I have to be very respectful of that, and not just take it for granted. And that's kind of something that's stayed with me throughout the business, is just be aware of where that money is coming from, and make sure that you're doing the best job you can do.
Well, how did that journey impact those around you in terms of, I believe as the man of the house, you would be the one supposedly taking care of things, bills, and stuff, and you're going through this very incredibly difficult period. How did that impact the family?
You obviously have to look at expenditure and be rather frugal on things, and but at the same time you understand that you want to give your children a happy childhood as well. So it kind of makes you realize that happiness doesn't necessarily depend upon money. It's in relationships and the experiences that we can give them, the places that we can take them to, or just spending time with them and playing and teaching them, and those kind of things. It's very sobering.
Now, looking back to that transition you made from, a very comfortable job to a business, what was the real cost of that, if you were to retrospect on that?
The biggest cost, I would say, was the time that I had to put into it.
Okay.
And because I wasn't really, when I left my job, I wasn't really an expert in everything that I was going to be pursuing, and obviously the goalposts shifted as I went along. But I was determined that I was going to know everything there was to know about the business that I was going into, and to do the best job that I possibly can do. And I know I was helped by people within the industry who were very generous with their advice and teaching me how things work and what you should do in certain situations with the technology. And the best thing that somebody told me right at the start was that in this kind of industry, within 18 months, you will know as much as pretty much anybody else in the business, because it's changing all the time. So I was determined to get to the grassroots of the technology that I was pursuing, and know as much as possible about it. And so within 18 months, I knew more than a lot of people who were still working in the same industry.
Wow. So a lot of learning, a lot of
learning, a lot of time dedicated to it. Yeah. Okay. But my wife was very supportive in all of that, and the kids, they understood that Daddy has to work.
saying that they understood that daddy had to work, what did that look like?
From their perspective, I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, it was making sure that whenever I could spend time with them, it was quality time.
Okay.
It wasn't just being present. It was actually, playing with them, teaching them things,
Yeah.
making things with them, and holiday times.
Yeah.
But making sure that we could go on holiday. Nothing elaborate, but
Something.
yeah, but like I say, happiness doesn't necessarily come from wealth or money.
Yeah. What were the little things that you can look back at, that said that would basically have brought happiness to you guys as a family, brought strength to you, even in that very difficult time?
I think one of the things, obviously, as a Christian, we were involved with the church and making sure that the kids were happy at the church. And I know that we did have to take stock of where things were from a child's perspective. And we always said that we wanted church to be as exciting for the children as it should be. And fortunately, at that time, they were all very well engaged in it and moving on. But you've always got to try, as a parent, you've got to try and view things from a child's perspective as well. And obviously the impact of me going from a well-paid job into something that where I had to be self-sufficient. Yeah, it did have challenges at times. I would say in my previous job, I was traveling abroad a lot as well, so they were kind of used to me not being around too much, but then it transitioned into me being around quite a lot because I couldn't really drive very much. But yeah, I did participate in what they wanted to do as much as possible.
That's really good. Was there ever a moment with Stage Logic, in particularly, and you've already mentioned it, that there were times that you were very close to giving up, more or less. What happened?
It's always been the situation that this was a God calling, and the business was my ministry rather than a business. And if anything, God was the owner of the business. I was the manager. And so it kind of made me make decisions occasionally that went against business logic. That's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It was a bad thing in a sense of when I was in a lot of debt. If I had an accountant at that time, the accountant would have said, "Pack it in," which is, but the good thing is that sometimes it does allow you to. Now that I'm not kind of financially critical, it allows me to do things that defy business sense in a positive way for the customer, such that if a customer can't afford something, but I can afford to let them have that or do it for them or make do it as a non-profit function, then I have the flexibility to do that. But I have to be wise in that as well. But there was an occasion in the probably about 2 years into the business where I was scammed out of £18,500, which I wasn't able to claim back as well. So I literally had to pay all that to my suppliers, even though I hadn't been paid by the end users. So that was one of those gut-wrenching moments of a realization that was the case. And again, it was taking it back to God, and is now the time to quit. And I read something just recently that said you don't lose unless you quit. Bad things happen to you, but if you can carry on with them and break through, then God will help you through those times. And I ended up selling off a whole load of stuff in order to pay back that amount of money. Wow. It was a very challenging time, and it was almost the end of the business. In the very early stages.
Early stages of the business. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, God brought us through that.
Wow. I remember a similar scenario whereby, someone more or less scammed us of about £12,500, and it just sapped my energy because it was a very early business.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of work had gone in. A lot of people were involved in delivering this work. And this person just wouldn't pay. Honestly, I haven't fully found the energy to re-engage that line of business, even though I know that it has the potential to be successful since that moment. How were you able to get through that sort of thing happening to you?
I identify with the gut-wrenching experience that you go through, obviously, but the foundation of the business was always God-based, and it's easy to say now, but wasn't easy to grasp the reality of the fact that God, this is your business, and therefore this is kind of your problem, and He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and it's easy to say that now.
Yeah.
But I understand it's not easy in the situation.
Yeah.
But I would always emphasize that if it's a God-given business and you give it over to God, then the problems that you have within the business sometimes are for God to deal with.
But how, in practical terms, how did you find strength to continue? Especially because, you probably would have had quite a number of people around you who may have thought, why did you even make the decision to leave your job? You probably had, pressures from, I'm married, so I know I know what that scenario could look like, whereby my wife would tell me, you've just lost this. I mean, right now, it may not seem like a huge amount of money, but when you are starting a business, that's a huge amount of loss. What did that look like, and how did you navigate?
Okay, so that was a pivotal moment when I know when I told my wife what was happening in the business, her immediate response is, "Do you think it's time to quit?"
Mm.
And that to me was difficult to take, because she'd always been very supportive, but it was almost like, well, what are my choices? Do I go back into something that I purposely came out of, which I still had the sort of skill set to do that, or do I push on with what I believe God has called me into? And I always felt that it was something that God called me into, and I don't want to quit at this hurdle.
So did the strength just come from knowing that this is a God, given purpose for your life, or how did you get the strength?
So I think by that time the business had gained enough traction to be bringing a reasonable income, and at the same time allowing me to invest in it.
Okay.
So
it wasn't almost as catastrophic as, I mean, that would not have bankrupted you at that time.
That's true. I mean, bearing in mind that I quit my job and started with basically nothing, and not even the strength to do very much either. That was the first challenge. The second challenge came in this extraction of money out of the business by wrongful means, and I think the first challenge gave me the strength to know that God was in it enough to take me through the next challenge. It just meant that investment back into the business had to pause, and it was literally just again back to being a bit frugal with things for a while.
Okay. So, I mean, it's very obvious that your faith is a huge part of your life. How did you come to faith? Especially in this environment where not a lot of people even believe in God. I remember in school, it wasn't one of the things that made you a cool kid to be known as a born again Christian.
Yeah.
So how did you even
how did I come to faith?
And how was that?
Well, I grew up in a very small village where everything centered around the church. Any activities centered around the church, and the vicar basically was quite active and creative for engaging children in the church things. But so I kind of we as a family we went to church. We weren't in any sense born again. It was just a thing that we did because the church was a big part of the village culture, so I guess that was foundational for me in one sense. But obviously, as you go through your teenage years, there are a lot of worldly pulls, and I engaged in those as well. And then I got a job with a chemical company, the one that actually that sort of rose through the ranks, and that's where I also met my wife. And her father was a Pentecostal minister, and she eventually invited me along to church, and I reluctantly went along just to please her, and I just saw a difference in the people who were there. So I did begin to think that, yeah, there's something in here that I hadn't really grasped from my early church experience. I didn't know at the time, but God had already planned that I was one of his. And so the transition to that eventually came about. That we had our my wife in those days of courtship. We had our challenges in the sense that I was a non-Christian and she was a Christian, and that was a little bit of a challenge for her, but I was getting there. And I remember sitting through so many church meetings, holding on to the seat at the appeals because I knew that I needed to, but I wasn't quite ready. And I think there were a number of things that kind of influenced me. I was at the time, the early stage of my time, I was very much into sports diving underwater, and I was away up in Scapa Flow in the Orkney Islands on an expedition up there, and I had a phone call from my wife, and we basically split. She had decided that it wasn't right for us, being her being a Christian and me not being a Christian, and so we split. So I just engaged more and more in the activities of the underwater world, and I remember sitting on a gun turret of a German battleship, which was about 100 feet underwater. And I distinctly remember thinking, I can't get away from God, not even down here. And that I had to wrestle with that, that God had got a hold of me. And so I came to a point where we got back together after that for a while, but then broke up again. So it was a turbulent courtship to start off with, and it was on my birthday, 24th birthday, and she dumped me on my 24th birthday. Wow. And I had an option. I could go along to the pub and drown my sorrows, or I could go along to the church and give my heart to the Lord. And I gave my heart to the Lord. Wow. And we didn't get back together for it was probably 18 months, and that was my decision because I didn't want any feelings of I only became a Christian to get back with her. We were separated for quite a long time, but then we got back together, and within a year we were married and started our family, and it's been an immensely gratifying, challenging, but in a very good way. The journey that we've had together, and she's the real backbone that allows me to do what I do, and keeps my feet on the ground. But she's a real inspiration now. Wow. Wow. We're very happy together, and
It's been how many years now together?
That's going to give my age away. So, yeah,
Roughly, you can give us a bracket.
yeah, roughly 42.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that is amazing.
yeah.
It's it's incredible to have walked that sort of journey
Mm-hmm.
with someone like that, and especially in terms of anchoring your faith.
Mm-hmm.
What part would you say she played in that?
Um, a very big part because I think for the early part of my Christian walk, she was the one with the experience, so she could feed into me and encourage me and guide me and allowing me to grow. But also, she was for a very long time the part of our marriage who had the wisdom. Um, uh, and I envied that she had natural wisdom. Any situations, and we've had turbulent situations to deal with. Any situations, she would know what to do,
Wow.
whereas I would kind of not really have that same instantaneous wisdom that comes from God. And it took me a while.
And I guess that might have been quite humbling, especially as a man. You would want to.
It was humbling, but it was nice to be able to rely upon her to bring wisdom into situations.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. If you could sit down with the younger Martyn, who was just starting out, what warning or what advice would you give to him?
I would say hang on to the fact that it is God who placed you where you are, and be careful not to be distracted by what the world would see as success, and keep hold of the vision that God has given you to do what He's given you to do. Yeah.
What if this young Martyn has not even come to know the Lord yet? If we were to take it back to maybe your 12-year-old self, would there be a different advice for him looking back? I mean, imagine he would have been nervous. He's just about to become a teenager. That's sort of in school. That would have been either year 8 or year 9, And I think a lot of the things playing out in our heads at that time is, what am I going to become in the future?
Yeah.
You're sort of getting to know yourself a little bit, but there's still a lot of unknowns.
Okay. Yeah. I would say, I identified it at that kind of age. You're looking for identity, so the advice that I would give would be the same advice that I would give to anybody of that age now. Is basically engage in what you enjoy and what you're good at. Focus on that and aim to be the best that you can be in that particular field. Because you see so many kids these days who just want to be the same as everybody else. They don't want to stand out from the crowd. And unfortunately, the crowd is not really moving on. And you look at the examples of anybody who has made a success. And I don't necessarily measure that in a financial sense, but made a success in whatever they're doing. Maybe it a sport person, maybe a musician, or a film personality, or anybody who has achieved anything of note has done it by hard work and a lot of investment in themselves and determination to be the best that they can. You don't get there just by hoping. And I would take an example of Lewis Hamilton for just to you know, you kind of he's come into prominence over the last few years, but that is only because he put everything into his early years and did a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice to get to where he is at this time. And that's a kind of typical of anybody who's reached any prominence. You may not get to the top, but you will enjoy being able to do what you do.
Interesting. And I mean, there are a different set of people that I would, seek to ask, what you may advise them, and that's people within my own category, and we are in our early to mid 30s. Even some people might be heading towards maybe their 40s or 40 at least. And like I said, you have a new family, you are probably coming into your career, you are trying to become established. But in that sense, there is also a lot of nervousness about, what the future looks like. And I guess this is almost like an advice from a father to a son. Looking back, if you could sit with yourself at the age of 34, which is my age, what would you be saying to yourself?
Probably the same advice that a lot of older people reflect upon their lives and say, I wish I'd have taken more risks. So you at your age, you have a lot of life ahead of you, God willing. And that means that you can make mistakes along the way and still have time to correct them later on.
Even at my age.
You think you're old? No. Let me tell you. When I was probably early 20s, I used to play guitar, and I was self-taught, and my teacher wasn't very good, so I didn't really aspire to anything. And I, in my mid-20s, I thought, well, that's it. I'm never going to learn at all. I'm not going to get anywhere with it. And so I sold my guitar. And I regretted it, but I just thought I was too old to learn, and then I was at 25. If I'd have kept on at 25 and been passionate about that, I would be really good. So it's things like I mean, that's not a big risk, but I would say, be prepared to take risks. So in one sense, you can look at what I did in packing up my career and stepping into what I did. You could say that's taking a risk if you look at it one way. But look at it
Was that around my age?
I was 40. 40
You were even older than...
Yeah.
Wow.
But for me, it wasn't a risk; it was a step of faith, and there's a difference. If you the gratification that you get. I remember thinking it when I'd done that, even through the difficulties of the pain that I was in and the physical circumstance that I went through. I remember sitting through church sermons and thinking, yes, I'm doing that now. I have taken that step of faith. Whereas before it was, maybe one day. But actually taking that step of faith and seeing the hands of God wrapped around me during that period and taking me through those difficulties. That step of faith was something that I am about to take again, but in a different direction. And I actually look forward to the challenges of taking that leap again.
Wow. What has been the most painful lesson you've learned, from people, from your business, from life in general, especially with the experience you've had? What have been the most painful lesson you've learned?
I think sometimes working in the church sector, you can get very, let's say, complacent in one sense that you trust people who are in the church sector, and I've been caught out with that. It doesn't always work that way, and I think that those were the kind of the hurtful things that I took away, that people would behave in a way that is more very business focused rather than God focused. I was always determined that okay, the unfairness of that is not really my problem, even though it affects me. It's not really my problem. It's been a struggle sometimes to accommodate how people can operate in certain ways in a Christian sector.
So have you ever been let down by someone in that sense in your business, or and tell us a little bit about that.
I'd rather not go into detail on that specifically. But yes, I've been let down to an extent where major business that had been going on for year after year suddenly was taken away through no fault of my own, but just by a business decision made by somebody new coming into the organization. So it was a kind of a loyalty factor that wasn't there. But I can't really let that affect me, because otherwise I'd be thinking I wouldn't trust anybody. And that's
so how did that change or impact the way you lead or the way you run your businesses?
It just I guess enabled me to understand that nothing is certain. God's still in control, but you can't ever take things for granted.
Someone once said to me that you don't need to know the way, because you're following the way, the truth and the life. In going through your journeys, how true is that? because you are following God and you're trusting in God and you have faith in what God has called you to, how true has it been that, God may not even show you everything about the journey that He's taking you, but you just need to trust Him in the next step? And how has that played out in your life?
Yeah. Okay. So I understand that God creates the opportunities, and He has allowed me to develop the skill sets to fulfill those opportunities. It's in one sense, it's a little bit like the gifts of the Holy Spirit, but that's on a completely different level. But in life, those gifts are available to us, and we have to look for the opportunities to exercise those. So in one sense, the business opportunities that I have been gifted are from God, but I have to seek them out. So we're kind of back to there's a verse in Matthew 7:7 which says, "Ask and it will be given unto you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be opened unto you." So often we can mistakenly just take the first section, "Ask and it will be given unto you," and not understand that we have to do the seeking and we have to do the knocking. So the seeking and the knocking is part of the skill set that God has allowed you to accrue to that point. So all the experience of the industry that I work in, God has allowed me to have that, and I thank God daily for that experience. And He provides the opportunities because I am the person who has that skill set to do the job. So yeah, don't just ask and leave it there. God expects us to do our part, and we're equipped. Each one of us is equipped in it with different skill sets to do the part that He has for us.
Wow, that's profound.
I love that.
Yeah,
absolutely. But it is important that we don't just stop at just asking and thinking that is our responsibility fulfilled. There is seek and you shall find, and there's knock and it'll be opened unto you. So ask, but if you want it to be opened unto you, you've got to seek and knock.
You have to do some things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Wow.
It's a wow to me as well.
It is. It is. And I mean, there's a team that's been running through the discussion underneath, and it's something that is in my spirit, and it's that scripture that says, "Your strength is made perfect in my weakness." Can you speak to that a little bit? How, and I think you've touched on it, but what does that mean to you, that the God's strength is made perfect in our weakness, and especially from a business perspective, because as a businessman, or I don't like to feel unequipped, or I don't like to feel that I do not know what to do or how to go about doing what I do. I like to know everything. I like to plan out, we plan out our cash flow and have our cash flow forecast. But I think that sometimes in business, the rock could be pulled from under you, and and also in life even.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you seen God's strength made perfect in your weakness over the years?
Okay, yeah, interesting. So in my early career, or my previous career,
Mm.
um, I uh, I started out as an apprentice draftsman. I wanted
Mm.
to be a pilot, an airline
Wow.
pilot to start off with. That didn't really go anywhere
Yeah.
because I've an eyesight disorder.
Mm.
And so I ended up taking a job that I was okay for. I did well at school
Mm.
in technical drawing,
Mm.
and so started out as a apprentice draftsman, qualified as a draftsman, and then switched over to sales side,
Mm.
and rose up through the ranks of sort of office junior through to office manager,
Mm.
and then out on the road, and then
Mm.
out on the plane, and such like. But I never regarded myself as a salesperson.
Mm.
Um, my definition of a salesperson was, or my approach to it was, if I don't know something about something, I'm not going to try and sell it.
Mm.
So I needed to know everything that I could about the product that I was selling,
Mm.
and just talk about that.
Mm.
And that came across to people. When I went into a completely different area of work,
Mm.
um, that was where my weakness was originally, and that's why, as I said earlier, I just put my focus into learning as much as I possibly could
Mm.
to make me the most suitable person for doing the jobs that
Mm.
I was taking on.
Mm.
But the weakness is, see, you can be the best at your individual skill,
Mm.
but if nobody knows about it,
Mm.
you might as well not have bothered in the first place.
Mm.
And it's like anything in life. If you want to get further on, say if you're a musician, you may be a
Mm.
fantastic musician,
Mm.
but if nobody knows about it, what's the point? And you're not really going to get the recognition for doing that. So
Mm.
marketing is something that has to be done, but you can only go so far. And ultimately, it is God who creates the opportunities.
Mm.
And I never know what the next phone call is going to bring, or the next email is going to bring.
Mm.
And it's been like that for a number of years. And there are quite often some very pleasant surprises that come just because I had contact with somebody many years ago who knows somebody who knows somebody, and recommends me from that engagement.
Mm.
So yeah, I think uh, from a weakness perspective is
Mm.
that I can't necessarily create the opportunities.
Mm.
A lot of the opportunities are God given,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I hope that answers
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Interesting. Um, you've spent, decades, building your business, and you've had a very interesting journey. What would you say has been your proudest moment, especially something that did not have anything to do with money, um, after all these years in business?
That's a difficult one. Surviving. I guess no. It's good to look back,
Hmm.
and see where the business started off from very difficult circumstances, and then was kind of hit in the face again in the early days, and then the challenges through having employees, and occasionally I was basically working for the employees rather than them working for me.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, the proudest moment is always today, and the fact that I have come through what I've come through, and God has been a part of it all the way through,
Wow.
in various ways.
The proudest moment is always today. Wow. Wow. I mean, do you
Yeah.
just do you have this you have such profound wisdom in the way you articulate, you know. And I think that's a gift, I would say, from God, because um wow, the proudest moment is always today. Is that because of contentment, or what's that? What's the
I think it is. I think it is because my journey is kind of coming towards a change, because I am leaving the industry and leaving the business to pursue something of another calling. But so for me to reflect upon it and look back is kind of really gratifying. But it just makes me more and more thankful to God that I have been on this journey, and through the difficult times you learn lessons that you can't learn any other way. You can't learn them from a book.
I mean, you already mentioned you've had a few staff. You had a few staff in that journey. What has the journey been, even for some of them? What have they, gotten out of that relationship that they had with you? What impact have you had in their lives?
I would love to think that it's been a very positive influence for them. I know a couple of them have sort of been the best boss they ever had, which to me is kind of warming. But I always looked at my employees not necessarily as employees, but as family people as well, with responsibilities, and especially most of them I sort of took on when they were aged around 20 or something like that, and then within a few years they were looking to start families themselves, and so took on those responsibilities of a mortgage and having to look after children. They became a part of my family in the sense of I have to provide for them, and I think it was, and they went on the journey with me. They knew the ups and the downs financially of the business. But fortunately, there are very few that I had to get rid of, and they were only kind of short term because they didn't really match the criteria or the ethos of the business. But the long termers, the really standout employees, they've all gone on to better things. One in particular, my first ever employee, I took him on after about 18 months, so he kind of knew what I'd been through, and he was with me through the impact of the fraud episode. So he kind of was on the journey with me through that. But he was a great asset to the business and brought a lot in. He left after I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years to pursue something, helping out a church in a different area, and then he had some personal difficulties that made him want to come back to the area. So I said, well, look, there's a job for you. Come back and join me if you want to, for as long as you're comfortable. It's just a way back. And it's that kind of thing that so he helped the business to go on further, and I helped him in a situation. It was those kind of relationships that are deep rooted. And then after a couple of years, he went on to set his own company doing the same kind of thing.
Wow.
And he's doing incredibly well.
Wow.
And so I'm just very proud
Yeah.
that I had the input into his early years,
Yeah.
but he was also able to bring something else to the business that was vital in those early years as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're still in good contact with each other.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We are living in a different world right now. We are living in an age of AI, automation, and very rapid changes. What concerns you most about the next generation entering into business and work?
The thing I was thinking about earlier this morning, actually, while I was walking the dog, is about the loss of personal interaction within business and in general within social life, because social media is kind of taking over an awful lot. It's becoming essential for marketing, but it's never a substitute for personal contact and individual networking. And I always find that even though, I don't do very much marketing these days, but the word of mouth is the best marketing, and personal interaction with people, rather than devising a nice graphic that you can post out to an email list of thousands of people, and it costs you next to nothing. It also brings you in next to nothing, because it is still the worst form of marketing. It's essential, and it's becoming, you would be noticed by your absence from social media. But I do say that personal interaction rather than social media, and so that is my concern for people going forward. So I remember distinctly, even probably a few years ago, just asking one of my guys, can you get in touch with so and so and just follow this one up. And they would interpret that as, right, send them an email. Whereas I actually meant, pick up the phone
and call them.
Talk to them. Better still, get in your car and go and see them.
Yeah.
Because you get so much more out of personal contact, and so much more. With social media, it's very difficult to distinguish yourself or define yourself as better than somebody else's pitch. So I've always worked on the basis of the equipment that I get is going to be decent equipment, and if I put a quote out, I know that I'm putting the proper equipment into to that specification, and it's decent and it's going to do the job. But I'm up against Joe Bloggs, who maybe thinks that, okay, well, I've got these pieces of equipment that I've bought for peanuts. They make a sound, or you can get a picture out of them, and I'll pitch that, and it'll be half the price that I pitch at, and the client has no idea how to differentiate between the two.
Wow.
And that's where personal interaction can come in. To define that. But generally, when you read a text, you can't read emotion into it. You can't read emphasis into it. It is literally just a series of words, and that's the struggle that we have at the moment. Now, whether AI is going to come up with better ways of conveying things, probably, but it like you say, it's a very fast-moving industry, and maybe personal interaction will become outdated in some point, but it's certainly my preference.
Interesting. Yeah.
God never texts.
Very interesting.
Having said that, he has written a really good book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Interesting. We're coming, closer to the end of the interview, of the podcast. So I'm gonna be asking, some should I call it transitional questions. First thing I would like to ask is, there are a lot of people who may be watching this episode, and we are living in a diverse society in the United Kingdom. The period that we are in the United Kingdom is definitely a transition. But looking back to about 20 years ago, or 10 years ago even, there has not been quite the level of divisiveness in the society. And when I say divisiveness, there's been a real growth of nationalism, a real growth. I mean, we've seen the flags.
Yes.
That's been put on almost every street lights, every junction. And in the real sense of it, people like myself, young man from African origin, but now naturalized in the UK. We are seeing the real impact of of that, because for some reason opportunities seem to be based on your name, your surname. People react differently sometimes when you show up, and some people are quite pleasant as well, but there's been a shift, and it's palpable. As someone who has seen business from I would say a wide horizon and perspective, and also as someone who is an elder in the church, what advice would you give to someone like myself in this new society that we find ourselves?
Okay, yeah. Well, firstly, I'm sorry for kind of the impact of society, and like you say, it's divisiveness. I am privileged to work in the church sector, multi-denominational, and so I work in all different types of churches, and it's easy not to, because we're all united by God. The discrimination is not there within the church, and I feel that it's so important that is the case as well. I guess it's really a bit of advice, the same as what I would give to young folks as well, is just endeavor to be the best that you can for God, and whatever you do, particularly in a work environment, do it as unto the Lord, and do it as a ministry. And if you can kind of divorce yourself from the cultural pressures that are going on by what you've mentioned, of the flags and you know, you've only to turn the news on today and see what's going on in different parts of the country as well, and it is sad to see, but I think just have that inner integrity, hang on to integrity, and in one sense it may sound a little bit arrogant, but you know, if somebody's got a problem with me, it's them that has the problem. You know, like I say, it sounds a bit of an arrogant way, but if I make that problem my problem, it eats away at my integrity. And I just want to be as humble and pure as I can be, so that God can trust me and not get diverted by other things that are happening around me. It's easier for me to say that. I appreciate. But yeah, just protect your integrity, and be the best that you can be, so that people understand that you are a man of integrity and you know what you're doing.
Wow, that is profound. Thank you so much for that. So you yourself, you're moving into a period of, you know, transition yourself. What does the future look like?
It's a good question, and it's one that we're taking a leap of faith. We are trusting in God. So what God's called us into is basically, He's been good to us, and we want to give back where we can to help other people. So coming into our what some people will call retirement, is I don't like that word, or the concept of. So I will always be doing as long as I can. But what He's calling us into is to move, relocate, and His instruction to us at the moment, and has been for the last 2 to 3 years, is get yourselves ready, and so that is why divesting of the business, selling our house, and relocating, and we don't actually know where at the moment. We're homing in on things, and so we are in the process of asking, seeking, and knocking at the moment. So the vision is that we have a property where we can provide some holiday accommodation for people who need it but can't really afford it. It's kind of sort of an Airbnb type of concept, but if you can afford it, then that's fine. Please come. But if you can't, please come. And it's really to help out. And it's going to be aimed at the church sector, because that's a place where there are people in need. And if there is opportunity for them to come away and mix with us for a period, and just get refreshed, then that's what we'd love to provide. So we're working towards that, and we've sold our house now, so we're in in the stage of, right, okay, God, we're getting ourselves ready. We're almost ready. Where do you want us?
Wow.
And so that is the uncertain bit, the scary but exciting bit.
Wow.
So
It's, I mean, oh, wow.
it's a watch this space, and I think anybody who's going through anything, good or bad, there is a point in time where you think, I would love to fast forward 6 months and see what the story is, see what the next page is, and I guess we've been looking for the next page for quite a while.
There is such, such faith that I can just feel from even the conversation that we are having, that I want you to speak to that person, whoever they are right now, who has probably heard from God, but just feel incapable of taking the next step. What would you say to such a person? Whether it be business, family, life. I mean, at this stage of your life, you're willing to drop everything, almost like Abraham, and go to a place I'll show you. Scary for some of us. What advice would you give to such?
I would say if God has spoken to you and dropped something into your heart which you feel is like a major jump, then look back and see when you have done something that is putting your trust in God before, and see where God's taken you, and take comfort from that, because He will never let you down. He will always take you forwards, and sometimes He's testing us to see how much He can trust us for the next steps. And you see, the alternative is, if you are called by God to move in something and you decide not to, then you live a life of regret, or a life of what if. So I'll share something else that is profound, that was spoken to me a few years ago, and it's basically, step out just in case it's God, rather than hold back just in case it's not. And that encourages me.
Step out just in case it's God, rather than
hold back in case it's not.
In case it's not.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sometimes we can get so entrenched in the busyness of life that we don't lift our heads up to see where we're going, and where, or even to ask where God wants us to go.
Wow. I mean, it takes my mind. I'm a songwriter. It takes my mind to one of the songs I wrote. I said, and one of the lines is, "Though some parts are still unknown, may I trust your faithfulness. Uncharted paths are here, but you've made way here before. Oh mind, my peace, your peace be still. God has proved you're in His hands. My prayer is still, your will be done." And that's just I just felt such peace, when you, just from what you just said, it's because I'm also in a season whereby I'm trusting God for that next phase. It's such a reminder for me to step forward. Wow. Step out just in case it's God, and rather than hold back in case it's not. That is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a phrase that's very special to me. Um, and yeah, I would always encourage people to,
Yeah.
yeah, because I have for a long time been one who holds back. You know, even in church, sometimes if you feel that God's given you a word, it's like,
Is it really
yeah, I'm
good?
not sure. And you miss those opportunities,
Yeah.
and then you think that
Yeah.
oh well, maybe I can pack that one away and unpack it again at
Yeah.
some point in the future. But that future point
Wow.
never comes. It's for the moment.
Wow.
And see, one of the things I don't want to get to the end of my life and at my funeral, however things transpire, people would say, "Oh yeah, he was a good guy, but he loved to travel. He did this and he did that here, there, and everywhere." I would rather leave a legacy of something that is of worth. That yeah, I was able to speak into people's lives, was able to help them, give them some direction based on purely the experiences that I've had. And everybody's experiences are different, but I think if I can encourage people along the way, that's what I would like to be, as an encourager, rather than just somebody who looks out for himself.
Wow. Amazing. Wow. And that just triggered the thoughts. I said in my mind when you talked about the funeral, I think one of the worst things that someone can say in my funeral, for example, is that he was full of potential.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
God willing, when it's time, I want to, like Paul say, I've finished my course, I've run the race. One of my goals is to ensure that I die empty. And I think this conversation is even a reminder of that too. Just keep expressing the things that God has put on my mind. I have one last question for you. After everything you've experienced, the wins, the setbacks, the sacrifices, was the dream worth it? Was it worth the cost?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say that over the last, well, since I started the business, the journey has been incredible. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've had the freedom to be able to determine a part of the course of things. Whereas if I had stayed in employment, yes, I could have probably be retiring on a very nice pension and have accrued wealth, but wealth is only money. And there's in a worldly sense, I think wealth in a spiritual sense is living life to the full. I've fallen short on living life to the full. There are things along the way that I have looked back and thought, oh yeah, if I'd have just taken that chance there, or taken the chance here, there, and everywhere. But yeah, there are minor regrets, but you learn from those things, and so the experience that I've taken, the friendships that I've made, the input that I've taken from other people, and it's just been amazing. And just to work in some of the churches and to meet some of the people who you can imagine there are people in churches who are not that switched on. They're sort of career ministers or just people who are they're just in church because it's a thing to do. But there are others who are totally on fire. And to have the conversations with people in the course of my work that impact on my life and my spiritual walk is incredible. Really, really value it all.
Wow. Just one last one. Is there one question I should have asked you that I missed out on?
I was struggling on that one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've asked me questions that it's been really a pleasure to be asked the things that you've asked me. In all honesty.
Okay. If there's nothing you can think of, maybe just share one last encouraging, thoughts or words for the people who have watched you for close to 2 hours.
Right. I'm increasingly aware that we are God's foot soldiers. We're put on this earth for and we're called for a purpose, and each of us has a different purpose. So as much as there is a pressure to be like somebody else, God says we are all parts of a body, and every part is different, and we all function because we're all different. But the key thing there is that we all function and do what God has given us to do. And not be looking to the left and to the right and thinking, "Oh, I wish I was a finger," or or I wish I was a mouth, or whatever. But just being thankful for who we are and the place that God's placed us in, and look for opportunities to do what we can where He's placed us, because that's where He wants us to be.
Wow. It's been such an incredible pleasure speaking to you today, Martyn.
Mine too.
It's been so profound, and I hope the audience would learn a lot of lessons. And in fact, if you're watching, please can you write in the comments something you've learned from this discussion with Martyn. I think we'll be looking at it. How can people, if someone wanted to get in touch with you for an encouragement or advice, or if they wanted to follow the journey and find out what happens next, especially in this year transition, where can people find you?
I am on Facebook, although my Facebook posts, like everybody's posts, are the bits that you wanted to see. I'm kind of reluctant to give a phone number because
no phone numbers. No phone numbers.
But
so your Facebook, they can find you on Facebook.
They can find me on
Martyn
Facebook.
Skirrow,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Martyn. It's been such a pleasure. Speaking with you today. Thank you so much.
Okay. My pleasure.
Awesome. See you on the next episode of The Cost of the Dream.